Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Satti and joining me is my wonderful co-host Fahim Bangesh. Assalamu alaikum Fahim. How are you doing today on a fine sunny morning?
Well, walaikum assalam first of all, and I'm doing very well, thank you very much. And no matter how sunny it gets in this weather, it's always supposed to be, for me at least, it's always going to be very, very bad weather, really.
Why?
Because it's humid.
I think the humidity level has shrunken a lot, especially after the rain on the 14th of August, and I'm really happy about it because no one likes humidity, right? Especially in the monsoon, but obviously everyone likes rain, and that too the people of South Asia, because we always romanticize rain because we get to see sun so much in our lifespan that whenever there is rain, we really eulogize that, we romanticize that, we have poetries extolling the virtues of the rain and whatnot. But if you go to the West, you will find that that's the other way around because they eulogize sun a lot because they don't get to see sun
I was having
much,
this discussion with one of our colleagues the other day, and that discussion is going to be too long if I talk about that discussion, because he's been all over the world and he was talking about how, like you were saying, that people eulogize the sunshine in the West, and he was like, no, and he hates the winters, the cold weather, the ACs, so he was, you know, sort of debating over that with me. So obviously I'm not going to talk about all that, but yes, as far as we are concerned, the local people of Pakistan, India, Bangladesh are concerned, yes, we do not, certainly do not like the humidity.
That's very true. And Fahim, so I'm going to ask you something. Since you grew up in Islamabad, you're very familiar with the spaces around here, the urbanscaping, the landscaping. We have lots of green spaces here. We have margalas here. We have trails here. We have greenery here. And I think we, coming from the PTV, we're very lucky that, and I think sometimes we take that for granted a lot, that we are living in a space and our office is located in an environment which is so pretty, especially when there is a rain going on. We are located in the footsteps of the Margala. You can see Islamabad looks beautiful after being freshly showered. It's very clean, it's very green. So what are your favorite spaces when you want to go alone, especially if you want to enjoy the solitude and you want to get some inner peace? Where do you derive that strength from, and when you compare that with the urbanscaping in the first place?
Well, if you talk about my favorite place, any place can be my favorite place if I'm with someone that I very dearly and nearly love. That's my wife, so I can go anywhere with her and talk about all the inner feelings and talk about all the emotions and stuff that's going on in life, be it my workplace, be it my family, anything, and future discussions as well, because obviously your spouse is one person that you share everything with. So yeah.
Right, that's wonderful, and thank you so much for saying that. But now moving on to our top stories, which is an essential component of our program, which is about the cabinet members, right? So 23-member cabinet caretaker federal government has been formed, which includes 16 ministers, 3 advisors and 4 special advisors. President Dr. Arif Alvi administered the oath at the presidency, and obviously we have a wonderful report built by our colleague Musharraf Zahoor, and we want to share visually what is happening, especially inside the red zone. So take a look.
According to the notification issued in this regard, Jalil Abbas Jilani was given the portfolios of Caretaker Foreign Minister and Murtaza Solangi as Caretaker Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Sarfaraz Bukti as Caretaker Interior Minister, retired Lieutenant General Anwar Ali Haider as Caretaker Defence Minister. Ahmed Irfan Aslam has been given the Caretaker Law Minister, Muhammad Ali Caretaker Energy Minister, and Gohar Ejaz has been given the Caretaker portfolio of the Ministry of Industry and Production. According to the notification, Dr. Shamshad Akhtar will be the Caretaker Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, while Dr. Umar Saif will be the Caretaker Minister for Information Technology and Sami Said will be the Caretaker Minister for Planning. Jamal Shah has been given the portfolio of Ministry of Culture and National Heritage, Madad Ali Sindhi Education, National Cohesion and Youth Affairs, and Dr. Nadeem John has been given the portfolio of Ministry of National Health Services. Khalil George will be the Caretaker Minister for Human Rights and Women's Development, Anik Ahmed will hold the Ministry of Religious Affairs and Interfaith Harmony, and Shahid Ashraf Tarar will hold the Ministry of Communications, Railways, Ports and Maritime Affairs. 3 advisors have also been assigned portfolios. According to the notification, retired Air Marshal Farhat Hussain will be advisor on aviation, Ahmed Chima will be advisor on establishment, and Bakar Masood on finance. Among the special advisors, Mashal Hussain Malik will be the special advisor on human rights and women empowerment, Jawad Sohrab Malik oversees Pakistanis, and Vice Admiral retired Iftikhar Rao will be the special advisor on naval affairs, while Wasi Shah will be the special advisor on tourism.
Oh wow, that's wonderful, because we have a cabinet here and we hope and pray that Pakistan prospers in the coming years. So now let's talk about our program and let's kickstart the conversation, because we want to talk about how much it is important to build the voluntary skills, especially in our youth today, Fahim, as we have seen that there's this just dearth of community services, especially in our syllabus, in our courses, and obviously there is the civil society which is coming in and which is filling the gap in the first place.
And have you ever done any volunteer community work?
Yes, I have. I work with the dyslexic people, I work with the orphanages, and it is very self-fulfilling, it is very satisfying, it gives you a lot of contentment, because you're interacting with the kids, with someone who are deprived of love, and if you give them some love, they respond you back so multifold, and it is so pleasing for you, because I think we are built with the higher forms of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are always thirsty for that sort of love in the first place, right?
Absolutely.
So
right.
without any further ado, we would like to introduce our guest, because she happens to be a big name, and we are very glad that she has graced our studio now. We are very glad that we have been joined by Miss Seher Afshin. She is a development practitioner. She is also country representative of VSO, which is Voluntary Service Overseas. What exactly VSO means, we are going to ask her. But before that, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalamu alaikum, Hajra. Thank you so much for having me here. And
it's a pleasure to have you here in our program.
Thank you.
Now, ma'am, first of all, before we move on with our discussions, voluntary services overseas, could you shed some light on this?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty obvious from the name that it is actually an organization which is working, through promoting volunteerism within the young people, also within the older communities, that how they can actually give back to the society. So our overall approach is to actually harness the energy and the positive contributions from the people and energizing them to contribute back to the communities. As Hajra has very rightly mentioned, that it is something that actually give our soul and energy, and it's a basic form of the relationship that we develop, when we actually give back to the society. So I think this is something, which is very much in there in ourselves and being somehow inbuilt by the Almighty. But this is also one thing which is the very need of our community as well, of Pakistan. And we see, we have so much energy, we have so much potential, we have so much skills all around, but unfortunately we lack all those platforms from where we can channelize all these positive energy and can contribute back constructively to the communities. So VSO's approach is Voluntary Service Overseas basically is an international development organization. We work across the globe, and we are present in almost 23 countries. In Pakistan, we are working since 1978, and our mission here in country in Pakistan is to actually bring volunteerism as one of the mechanism to bring prosperity in the country and in the lives of the people.
Sir Saiba, 1978 till now, that's a very long time if we come to think of it. What exactly is the scope of this organization? How far does it go? What is the reach like?
Yes.
Because I always talk about the fact that we have that youth bulge in Pakistan, which we should take advantage of. So could you let us know how big the effect and the scope of this organization is and the reach?
Yeah, so since we are there, for last so many decades, so by now, we have reached to so many people, and particularly, when VSO started in Pakistan, so our particular mission was to actually bring in and pull in, some of the international knowledge and expertise, and help those international expertise to be used in our own context. But unfortunately, this international exchange has reduced recently because of some of the law and order and security issues. So now our focus has become more and more towards bringing in and towards strengthening the national volunteerism and also the local volunteerism. So by far, we have engaged, more than 5,000 young people as, one of our, as our change makers or as volunteer who are out there in the communities serving people in the areas of education, livelihood and health. So these are the three major areas where we work. But as we have been talking so much about youth and youth empowerment, and we are pretty much focusing on gender inclusion and social inclusion as well. So these are cross-cutting theme that runs across all our program, but our major themes are education. So we are promoting inclusive education, where we are reaching out of school most marginalized young kids, and we are trying to mainstream them back into the education system. And then we are working on the resilient livelihoods as well, and health is another component.
So we will continue and resume this conversation especially when we're talking about the out of the school children and how it's important to engage in the activities, productive activities in the first place. And I'm really glad, Fahim, that our morning show is doing a weekly program, a daily program on the Balochistan, because there are lots of sports initiatives going on. And nowadays we know that how much it is important to engage our youth in this sports activity, considering the fact that we are living in a very digital age and our kids are glued to the screen. So healthy activity is always a very nourishing activity in the first place. And I'm very proud to say that the government of Balochistan, along with the Corps Commander Quetta, Asif Ghafoor Saab, Lieutenant General Asif Ghafoor Saab, has been taking a very keen interest in making sure that there is a sports activity going on, especially in the province of Balochistan, which is one of the largest province of the Pakistan. And to talk more about it, and especially there is a Quetta Premier League, what are the activities and how the idea came forward, we're very glad that we have been joined by Vania Tahir Sahiba. She happens to be a lecturer. Assalamu alaikum, Vania Sahiba. Assalamu alaikum, Vania Sahiba. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Premier League in the Quetta has started. Can you brief us about it a little bit? How many teams are participating there? How many participants are actually in that particular league?
Basically, there are 8 teams. So, and there will be 31 matches and one exhibition match between DG Sports and team owners.
Right.
And also we know that the 8 teams are named after the 8 districts of Balochistan. That's quite a creative thing to do, I must say.
That's very true.
And of course, we know that Balochistan too, like all the other provinces of Pakistan, has a lot of potential, has a lot of talent.
True.
So how successful have you been so far in fishing out that talent from the whole of the Balochistan province?
True.
Sorry?
How successful have you been so far in fishing out that talent from the young people of Balochistan?
Of course, as you know that the youth of Balochistan is so welcoming, and Balochistan always welcome the opportunities, and this platform will provide the youth of Balochistan the best platform to showcase their talent. And of course, we can take them to national or international level, as they will play in good atmosphere, or they'll have in a proper uniforms or proper kits. So those boys or girls who are playing in streets, so they get opportunity to play in a better atmosphere, and they can showcase their skills, and they get a confidence to, of course, to standardize their skills on a professional level.
Right. So Vania Sahiba, since you talked about both girls and boys, and I was really glad to listen, that there's a lot of gender inclusivity element in the sports, because sports is a very nourishing activity in the first place. So can you shed some more light on the gender inclusive element of that, and how many girls are there? Are there specific teams dedicated to the girls, or there's a mix sort of, or is a segregation there? So what sort of, can you shed some light on the component of the games there?
Yeah. Actually, the best thing in this Quetta Premier League is that we have gender equality. We have the brand ambassadors female, and the matches which will be played between the teams or that will play among the teams, that will be boys. And the name of the teams are on the 8 districts of the Balochistan. And this is the Quetta Premier League, and we are planning for the Balochistan Premier League, where we will take the female players as well, but currently the players are the boys.
I see. So also we know about the exhibition match as well. Could you also shed some light on the exhibition match?
Exhibition match will be on the 19th, tomorrow. So I'll make it sure that I'll provide a proper screen for you people, or that will be between the owners and the DG Sports, the Dura Baloch.
Right, and who would be the honorable chief guest for the occasion?
The DG Sports.
Lovely, that is lovely indeed, because definitely gender inclusivity, lovely, that is engaging the youth in such a healthy activity. True. That's something really, really creative and productive as far as Balochistan province is concerned, as far as Pakistan is concerned. True. But please stay online with us. We will have you again. And now coming back to you, Seher Saiba, we were talking about volunteering activities in Pakistan, and we were, as you said, it's an international organization. So right. Does VSO primarily, in how many countries does VSO engage in? And in Pakistan, I mean, you said there are about 7,000 or 8,000 volunteers?
Yes,
is
yes,
it?
yes, more than 5,000 volunteers.
More than 5,000 volunteers, right. And in which sectors again?
In education, livelihood and health.
Right.
Lovely. And how many countries does VSO operate in?
There are 23 countries in which VSO currently operates, and Pakistan is of course one of them. And in Pakistan, we are working all across the country. So we are working in Balochistan, KPK, Sindh, Punjab, and also GB, Gilgit-Baltistan as well.
Right. So, Ms. Seher, since you talked about the out of the school children, and you guys are making sure that you bring them back into the fold of education, and I'm pretty sure this is a very challenging concept in the first place, because obviously lots of parents are reluctant to send them to these schools in the first place, because they want them to work there and earn money and contribute towards the income of the family, yes. Right? So what sort of challenges do you face as the organization, and how do you tackle that if someone wants to follow in the footsteps of VSO?
Yeah, so of course, it's very, very challenging when you work with the local communities, because as you very rightly mentioned that, like, education is very much the hindrance or one of the bottlenecks of, getting into education is actually their socioeconomic conditions. So when we work in the community, so it is really, really important for us to win the confidence of those local community and build a repo over there, and that can help us, motivate and mobilize them, that how important this education is for the kids and how important it is for the coming generations. So that's why our whole volunteerism model actually helps us a lot, because we are not present in each and every corner of the country. So our local volunteers and the change makers who are from the community, who are the one we trained, and they actually serve as one of the change makers and one of the vehicle for us to reach out to those communities and to convince them and to talk to them about their particular challenges as well. Also encourage them to send their children back to the school, working in a flexible environment where they don't have to follow their school timings, where they can also continue with their work and can also follow their education as well. So our catch-up learning programs have been really, really incremental in this particular aspect, because catch-up learning programs are actually designed to cater the learning losses that these out-of-school children usually have, because they are out of school, they are out of age as well, for the level of the education where they want to go in. So through these catch-up learning programs, where we have trained local volunteers, they help those young people to to cope with all those losses and then get back to the schools. And we have such inspiring stories. We are working in the refugee camps as well, where where we are working with most of the marginalized people. We are working with young girls particularly, and one of the young girl from one of our refugee camp who worked with us as volunteer has been able to continue her own education later on while working with us as volunteer, because she was able enough to earn some money, and she was able to enroll herself into the the distance learning program.
Right.
So our program has been creating a lot of impact, not only for those young kids, but also in the lives of those change makers and the volunteer themselves, because they now feel the courage and have, you know, those pathways available for them, because we connect them with all those pathways where we are pursuing their own dreams as well. So I think this has remained very, very incremental and very, very much two-way as well, because it's not only the kids who are gaining something from these volunteers, but these volunteers are also gaining a lot of courage, a lot of energy, and a lot of direction from our programs.
And also, we talk about like gender equality, we're talking about gender inclusivity, we're talking about, because in the smaller urban centers of Pakistan, yes, I understand that it may be easier to convince the people, but what about the rural centers? Because people over there usually are quite opinionated, they usually are quite rigid when it comes to these things. It's hard to convince them. So what about them?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the mistake that we all usually do, that like we kind of design a same kind of program, you know, for girls and also for boys. But we need to realize and recognize that, like, you know, when we talk about marginalized girl and for their inclusion into the mainstream system, then we need to recognize that we need to allocate certain additional resources as well. So what we do is that, like, of course, our local influencing and our local advocacy and our local mobilization plays a big role. We also, you know, create local role models. Like usually our volunteers are local role models as well. And we prefer to have young girls from those community who can actually role model and can demonstrate to the local communities as well that, like, the girls can come out of their house and can have and can pursue their dreams as well. Another important aspect is that, like, you know, when we invite them to our catch-up learning programs or to certain trainings, so unfortunately, you know, usually there is no budget allocated for the additional resources. Like, for example, sometimes they want to bring their brother or their mother together with them, so that they have that level of confidence that, you know, the institute where they are going is safe for them, is, you know, and they are actually achieving the purpose for which, you know, they are going there. So we do allocate these kind of resources, and we do take special measures. Whenever we design a program, we undertake a specific gender analysis of the program, and which means that, like, we try to identify the needs, the specific needs which are associated, you know, with the specific genders, with people who are with disability, people with the specific needs as well. So we try not to design, you know, a standardized kind of, you know, program. We try to, you know, diversify our program needs as much as possible, so that we reach out to all those marginalized people that we really commit to and we really want to reach to.
Right. So we will carry on this conversation forward. And now coming to you, Ms. Vania, if you can hear me, so I wanted to ask you about the importance of sports in nourishing a healthy minds, right? So for him, we have seen that sports is a very nourishing activity in the first place, and especially when such sorts of events like the Quetta Premier League, they are being implemented, they are being played there, and the youth are engaged in that, and definitely prevents the youth from engaging in a lot of unhealthy activity. And we see in our society that lot of young people, they are falling prey to victim to such sort of menaces that are present in our society. So how much do you think such sort of sports are important in specifically in Balochistan, because obviously there are not many avenues for the entertainment in the first place, and providing them a healthy alternative for their nourishment?
Of course, sports is the platform of healthy playing, and especially I totally do agree that sports is a thing which brings positivity and nothing else. Here we don't think for the people from whatever tribe is there, especially in the, if we talk about Balochistan, so you have listened that there is a political turmoil, there is sometimes, of course, there in news there is terrorism. So sports only bring positivity, of course. So when the girls or boys from the deprived minds come for these sports, and in this platform, that where they can showcase their skills, and for the future that they can make their name in a national or international level. So that is something that is best platform for them, and of course that brings opportunities, of course. And the things, it's not the first time that we are playing Quetta Premier League. We had Cage Premier League, and there are different district level. In Gawadar we have so many matches. in Quetta, of course, at district level. But this is the first time that they are showcasing their talent on for national level.
Right, right. So, Vanya Saiba, like Fahim asked, and I want to reiterate that question again. So, how do you cherry pick the talent? How do you select the kids who want to play in the first place? Or if some kid or some young person is interested in joining your league, how can that person enroll into it? Because obviously, this is a very healthy initiative, healthy activity, and I'm pretty sure there are lots of young people who are vying for such sort of activity.
Basically, the selection criteria is that there were auditions of were there. So the owners and the brand ambassadors select the boys for the teams.
Right.
So those boys who cannot get opportunity, and in schools, in colleges, and in university, like we have a Balochistan University for Information Technology, Engineering and Management Science. We have University of Balochistan. We have Alhamd University and the girls and boys colleges. So in girls college, we also asked for them to be the part of the sports, but it's not for the teams. But yeah, we are having a female where they can just play, but not for the teams. And for the selection of teams, we have the boys from the universities.
Right, right.
Right.
That's wonderful, and wishing you all of the best, and wishing you that such sort of activities proliferate across the country, Fahim, in the first place.
Absolutely, because we need such activities. We need nourishment of minds and bodies, and these are such activities which would not only nourish the minds and bodies, but also provide talented people with a platform so that they can pursue that as a career perhaps in their lives and come up at the national and international levels. And a very good initiative, I must say. And I think Balochistan is a province which has a lot of potential and needs that sort of a platform to prosper and grow in the future.
And I would specifically like to appreciate the Balochistan government and obviously Corps Commander Quetta, Lieutenant General Asif Ghafoor Saab, for arranging such sort of activities in the first place, and for thinking about such sort of initiatives, because like Fahim mentioned, we need to nourish that talent, and it's not about nourishing the talent, it's also about showcasing the beauty, the landscape of the Balochistan, which is filled with so many beautiful landscapes, which is filled with so many beautiful sights to behold. And obviously, it's a, I mean, feast on the eyes, and it's a delight to see them in the first place. But thank you so much, Vanya Saiba, for enlightening us about such sort of activity. Wishing you best of luck, and may the best team win. And obviously, it's a sport, so it's designed in a way that one will lose and one will win. But these activities, these initiatives, we're really, really proud of the Balochistan government, and obviously, Lieutenant General Asif Ghafoor Saiba. And thank you so much, Ms. Vanya Saiba. Obviously, we are going to carry forward our conversation regarding the activities of the young people, volunteerism, education, but after a short break. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back, and obviously before going on to the break, I alluded towards a conversation which will be geared towards volunteerism, girls' education, out of the school children with Ms. Seher. So with Ms. Seher, we would like to kick forward and carry forward our conversation. So tell us about the multi-year resilience program which you are initiating, what are the components of it, and how it is contributing towards the community in general.
Yeah, so multi-year resilience program is again an education program, and it's a very, we have adopted a whole child approach while designing this program. So it not only talk about addressing barriers that are there for in terms of access to the education, but we also talk about system change. We also talk about policy change. We also talk about creating a safe and conducive environment for young kids, and also we talk about the inclusion of particularly young girls as well. Right. So it is an all-encompassing program that has all these different components, and when we talk about, policy change, so there is, a whole lot of arena that we need to work on, because of course we work on different projects which are short term, which are short lived as well, but if we want to create a sustainable and long term change, we need to work on the policy environment. So we work a lot in terms of strengthening the local institutions as well. So we work very closely with education departments of all the country, but specifically, the Balochistan and KPK, because this MYRP program is actually focusing on KPK and Balochistan, because we know that these both districts are really hard hit by the natural disasters as well, and they are low socioeconomic marking provinces as well, and they have high and huge number of refugees as well. So we have selected both these provinces, and we are working really closely with the local education departments. We are helping them in terms of strengthening their local education sector plans, and we are also trying to help them in terms of implementing those their education sector plans. So we are not doing anything out of the purview of the government plan itself, but what we are trying to do is that, like, we are bringing in some international expertise, knowledge, and also some of the techniques and tools in terms of making our education system more inclusive and more convenient and impact based as well.
And what are some of those techniques and tools which you are alluding to in your conversation? Can you?
Yeah. So, like, for example, we work very closely with our for Balochistan, let's say, if I talk about, so we are actually they have their own teachers education program. So what we try to do is that, like, we bring in our own teachers training manuals in terms of multi-grade teaching, in terms of education in emergency, and we are also working with early childhood education. So we are training the teachers on play-based learning as well. So there are different techniques through which we are equipping those teachers so that they create an environment within the classroom that is conducive for learning for the kids as well. It's also not very shady, and how to say, like, not very powerful some kind of thing, but like it's very playful, very friendly, where children actually feel encouraged to learn and come and continue their education. And there are a lot of other tools and techniques that we are actually trying to collaborate as well, but our teachers training program is the specific driving point from where we start, and we try to change our overall education system.
And also, what further recommendations would you like to give to the government, because the government is also spending a chunk of the budget in the education sector? Do you want it to be more? Do you want the government to take more steps as far as the education sector is concerned?
Yeah.
You're on the national TV, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, I think, we all need to work a lot, because unfortunately Pakistan currently, if I talk about numbers, so Pakistan was the second country which is on top of, the number of the out of school children, and which is really unfortunate. And unfortunately, after last year's flood, we have gone up to number 1. So across the world, we are at number 1 in terms of out of school children. And then we are also have the challenge of the influx of refugees. So we have to also tackle those children as well, who are coming in with every year. So unfortunately, we have a big challenge in front of us, and only collaborative efforts can actually do and create an impactful environment. So government is already doing a lot of work, particularly if I talk about the education sector. I've seen that, like, it's pretty much organized, systematic as well, because our provincial education sector departments and also our federal education department is taking pretty much lead into organizing different things. They are coming up with their centralized framework, and they are then inviting civil society organization to come and contribute into their plan. And they are also very very forthcoming and very open to take feedback as well. We review those plans, on a very regular basis, and we also incorporate changes into that. So I think we have already started going into a right direction, and work is now not happening in piecemeals and in here and there kind of approach. So it's pretty much organized, centralized, so that we can actually channelize all our funds and resources into one direction, rather than going into different directions and not creating an impact.
And you specifically, I'm sorry I'm interjecting you, Fahim, but you specifically talked about the government policies and how you would like to collaborate with them. And obviously, before going on to the break, we were having this conversation where you talked about the volunteer policy, right? So you guys are initiating that. What sort of policy are we seeing which is coming in? And obviously, it's a high time that we induce volunteerism in our syllabus and obviously in our youth in the first place.
Yeah. Hajar, we are, we all know that like we are one of those country where we collect, the highest amount of maybe philanthropist contributions and money whenever there is any disaster or whenever there is any calamity that hit us.
Right.
So we already have all that spirit within us. Unfortunately, what we lack is that like there are no organized platforms from where we can, create that impact and create those contributions. So when I was young and I was, coming out of the university, so I was so motivated and enthusiastic to contribute, but I didn't know that like where to go.
Young. Please don't say that. Age is just a number.
I know. So I think Pakistan by far, we have not come up with the volunteerism policy, and I think there is a whole lot of requirement to actually kind of systematize this whole volunteerism work, because where youth is also contributing, but they also feel that like they are contributing to a specific and certain direction. So we are working together with the with our youth departments particularly, and we are, by the way, 12th of August was International Youth Day. So we are actually commemorating International Youth Day on 5th of September, and we will kick off our this effort where we will be working together with local youth departments, and we will be coming up with a national volunteer policy, and we want to actually incorporate in that volunteer policy some of the global volunteering standards as well. So like for example, we are doing volunteering work, but at the same time we are knowing that like there are certain yardsticks and measures that we need to take when we are working and entering in any of the particular community. And at the end of it, when young people are contributing their time and energy into some work, then they are also getting back something, so certain level of experience that they can later on cash in their in their professional lives. So we are trying to come up with that policy, and we are working very closely with the youth departments. This is our entry point, but we also want that later on we expand the scope of that volunteerism policy to our elderly people as well, because I know of a lot of people, and we all know from our context that we do have our elderly people who either get retired or are not formally working, but they have so much energy, so much knowledge that they can share and that they can help us to learn from. So we really want to also capitalize on that particular knowledge as well, and we want to work through with those on also capitalizing on that particular knowledge, because the kind of nation we are and the kind of challenges we have, until unless we all are coming together and all are working towards certain cause, so we won't be able to reach anywhere. So we feel that like every member of the society is really important and can contribute, and we want to harness that contribution into a positive direction.
Now, since you spoke about contribution of each and every person in the society, now we know that our parents were of a different generation. Now that the parents are coming up, the people, usually we see a clot of population which feels entitled to everything, right?
That's true.
They don't have that spirit of doing any volunteer work, because nowadays what we see is the response that, okay, what's in it for me, So what are your recommendations for the parents? Because it's them who have to instill the spirit into the children.
Of course, we have to train the parent rights, from the beginning, but that will be a huge task. So what we do is that like we try to invest into the early childhood education, and we try to invest into the early childhood development as well. So the early childhood development actually starts when the parent conceive a baby. So it is so encompassing.
Because we do see this type of training in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. We do have, and it is actually ongoing across all the world. Right. If you remember our elders and parents, we used to get trainings from our home, because we used to have our grandparents at home who used to tell us that like how you can behave, how you have to conduct yourself, how you don't have to create any harm to the people who are around you. Unfortunately, now we are moving towards a nuclear family, and parents are working. That socialization aspect is getting missed now, and this is something which is not being tackled either in the schools or education system, and that is missed out in the at the home as well. So there is a gap that has been created over there. So we are trying to now tackle it from the early education program, where we want young kids to give them a social norms training, social behavior training as well, the values training, where they know that like how they need to conduct themselves so that they are not creating harm for anyone else. Like for example, you talked about Japan. So there in Japan, you know, the early childhood education programs actually include the training for the young kids that how they can use the public washrooms. So when they have to come out, so how they need to clean it, so that for the next person who's coming in, the washroom is clean and neat. So I think these kind of things are the areas that we need to ponder upon and we need to work on, and through our early childhood education program. And it is also something, you know, that we are taking leverage from our global knowledge as well, and we are trying to bring in it in here and formalize it as well. And recently there have been a lot of interest and attention towards that subject by all the education departments, government departments as well. Recently, you know, we have had foundation learning seminars and conferences where we talked about the importance of investing into the early childhood education. We recently, World Bank has launched a Human Development Index report, and unfortunately, you know, previously we were talking about out of school children. So unfortunately, the children who are already in a school, so they mark really low in terms of their learning outcomes, and particularly those who are under the age of 10. So this is also very alarming that even those who are reaching to the school are not getting the right quality education.
So we can say they're getting the literacy but not education.
Not the education. So actually everyone is now, you know, paying attention towards this subject, and they are coming together, and we feel that like this is an area and aspect that we can actually tackle through the early childhood education and early childhood development programs. So we are working on that as well. Good thing is that the government has also notified early childhood education programs, but they have not been implemented right now because government is being short of resources as well, and then they all are also short of different models. But you know, we are also helping them through our volunteer program. We are working together with university students where we are training them as you know, as early childhood trainers and teachers, and they are going and you know, contributing their time into the schools where they are, you know, training young kids on the play-based learning models. So this is another area that we are tackling.
Right. So Ms. Seher, since you're working on a behavioral change campaigns, and it's a very difficult, I would say, terrain to tread, because behaviors are very difficult to change and it takes a lot of time in that, right? So how do you make sure that those
energy.
Energy, that's true. So how do you make sure that these behavioral change campaigns can incorporate the voluntary, community-based volunteerism? And obviously, and secondly, I would also like to tackle the elephant in the room, which is all of these initiatives, especially which there is a donor funding involved in that. So there's a lot of skepticism attached to that, right? And there's this ideology of, I would say, imperialism involved, because the money is coming from somewhere and they might have an objectives which are very different from the real objectives in the first place. So how do you tackle that skepticism and make sure that your work is on the right track and you are moving with the volunteerism and the behavioral change campaigns in the first place?
Yeah. So as you very rightly mentioned, behavior change, you know, take ages. True. And I think it requires nothing else other than patience, a whole lot of patience. And particularly, you know, the topics we are talking about, it takes generations to actually change. And we have to also see change through generations. Like if I talk about my grandmother and even my mother, so they were not allowed to move freely all alone. They were not being able to travel maybe, you know, to the to the west or the out of the country all alone. But I'm the one who's doing it. So I have been seeing changes over the generations. So we need to have that kind of patience and analysis as well. And behavior change campaigns, you know, it's not that like, you know, you talk to people and the other day they are changed. So you need to kick and you need to talk about those things, and you need to actually, you know, channelize that I'll say tipping point where they can actually feel also they can relate with those subjects and topics.
So psychologists and psychiatrists are also involved?
Yeah, they are because we are working on psychosocial health and support as well. But I think and we are, whenever we design any campaign, so we also take support from them as well. But I think this is very important to always see that like what is at the heart of the people, and then, you know, how you can touch all those tipping points that people also want to talk about, that people that can relate to people. And also in all our communication and all our campaigns, our purpose is to actually generate that discussion and discourse, particularly the topics which are not being talked about, the topics that people don't see interest in, but, you know, try to bring those topics into the mainstream. Like for example, there are like a lot of talk shows that Of course, political discussions are also important, but the kind of development discussions that we need to take and that we need to make our audience sensitized is really, really, you know, unavoidable in current situations. So we try to generate those kind of discussion through our behavior change campaigns, and we use multimedia approach where we, you know, not only use social media but also door-to-door campaigns, because the communities we are working, we really need all those kind of mixed media approaches to reach out to the most marginalized one. And then, you know, you talk very very rightly about, because with the international NGOs, the agenda of being, you know, doing something else and maybe, you know, coming with a specific agenda is pretty pertinent. So whenever I'm in any of the talk shows and whenever I'm talking to any of the conference, I always you know, say that, like, I'm Pakistani, I'm pretty much you know, patriotic. I'm there right from the beginning of my life. I have had, you know, quite a number of chances where I could have moved outside and can have a, you know, very lavish lifestyle, but you know, I prefer to stay here, and I prefer to work for my people. And I also, you know, at the same time try to ask people to think that, like, you know, why a person sitting maybe in Canada or UK has to, you know, cut off his taxes and send money to me so that my child can go to school. So this is such a shameful thing. This is something that we need to do. So I think, you know, the moment we start owning all these development issues, all these subjects, so I'm pretty hopeful that there will be a time when we won't have to seek any money from outside.
Well, Sir Saiba, it has been a pleasure talking to you and having this intellectual discourse with you, because obviously we need individuals like Sir Saiba and many more who as an individual make a change in the society, and we as individuals, the media, the government, all have to play their due role in coming up with new initiatives and coming up with creative ideas in order to get our nation, in order to get our youth in doing something which is not just for themselves but for the other people as well.
Thank you so much, Sahir Saiba, once again for coming on.